All right, what's going on, you guys? Brian here with a quick recap of what happened on tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. So let's just get into it. On tonight's show, a lot of things happened. We saw two number one contender matches for two different championships. We saw a championship that has not been was not official be made official as an official world championship. I'll get into that in just a moment. We found out about some big time matches happening next week, plus a whole bunch more. So let's just get into it. So on the pre-show before the Impact on, I believe it airs on Access TV, their official YouTube channel. It was Johnny Swinger defeating Fallah Bahh on the pre-show. Then, on the main show itself, we had Jake Something defeating Deaner in a tables match. Afterwards, Jake Something would be attacked by TNA World Heavyweight Champion Moose. And basically, Moose wanted to hold the show hostage, saying he was not leaving until he gets a Impact World Championship match against Rich Swann. And basically, Scott D'Amore came out and basically said, you know what, Moose, you've been harping on about wanting a World Championship match. Well, guess what? You've been walking around with the TNA World Heavyweight title. From here on in, that championship is official. It is an official World Championship. So they have reinstated the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. As of now, it is an official World Heavyweight Championship, and it was defended in the main event of tonight's episode, as Moose would defend against Jake Something in the main event of tonight's episode of Impact. Also, we saw Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Black Taurus defeat Willie Mack, Josh Alexander, and Trey Miguel. Which means next week, those three, Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Black Taurus, will do battle, and the winner of that one will become the number one contender to the X Division Championship, currently held by TJP. Then we had a Havoc, Nevaeh, and Tennille Dashwood backstage segment that started with Havoc and Nevaeh talking about not wanting to disband their team. Then when Nevaeh left, Tennille and Caleb with a K came in, and of course last week, Tennille wanted to be Havoc's tag team partner, and she tried again this week, and Havoc was like, I'm not interested. Obviously, she wants to keep her and Nevaeh as a team, and Tennille Dashwood is doing everything and, wanting to convince Havoc that, you'd be better off with her instead of Nevaeh. So that was pretty much it for that. We saw the Impact World Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers, in action. They defeated Triple XL. We had a Swingers Palace segment that would lead to a match being made for next week's pre-show before the Impact. It's going to be James Storm taking on Rohit Raju, who will have Shira in his corner, and James Storm will have Chris Sabin in his corner. This came about because not only of what happened, because of an argument that broke out between Sabin, Storm, and Rohit in Swingers Palace, but also last week at a bar. For anyone that watched Impact last week, Storm hit Rohit with a beer bottle at the bar. So these two will settle their differences next week before the Impact pre-show. We had a Good Brothers and FinJuice backstage segment. Of course, FinJuice consists of David Finlay and Juice Robinson from New Japan Pro Wrestling. they would announce that next week in a huge 8-man tag, the Good Brothers and FinJuice will team up to take on Reno Scum and Triple XL. So that is another huge match set for next week. Eddie Edwards defeated Hernandez in what was scheduled to be Eddie Edwards versus Brian Myers. However, Brian Myers hired the same lawyer, apparently hired the same lawyer that MJF had in AEW, Mark Sterling Esquire, and basically Mark Sterling was trying to, said about that, according to Brian Myers' contract, because it's an unsafe work environment, and because he has an eye injury, he cannot compete. So Hernandez took Myers' place, and Eddie Edwards defeated Hernandez. Then in a backstage segment, Scott D'Amore was tired of the games. He basically told Myers that next week you're facing Eddie Edwards, and Matt Cardona is going to be the special referee. So that is a huge match, another huge match for next week. We had the number one contenders tag team match to see who would challenge Fire and Flava for the Knockouts tag team titles, as Jordan Grace and Jazz defeated Kimber Lee and Susan. And in the main event, we had Moose successfully retaining the TNA World Heavyweight title against Jake Something in a hard-fought battle. Then afterwards, he would attack Jake till Rich Swann made the save. And then while officials were breaking them up, Scott D'Amore came out and said, you know what? I'm tired of this. Here's what we're going to do. March 13th on Impact Plus, on the Impact Plus special Sacrifice, it will be Rich Swann defending the Impact World Championship against Moose. So Moose finally gets his opportunity at the Impact World Championship, March 13th. Mark it down on your calendar. Impact Plus special, Sacrifice, Moose, Rich Swann for the Impact World Championship. So that was pretty much it for Impact. They also had a paid advertisement from AEW, which featured Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone, Britt Baker, Reba, Rebel, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and Ryan Nemeth, who are all going to be in action tomorrow night on Dynamite in individual competitions or in separate matches. So that pretty much was it for Impact Wrestling. This has been my Impact Wrestling recap. As always, I am Brian, and I will see you next time. Oops.